Hello, and once again to another Battlefront Miniatures hobby tutorial. This time around it's the Lend-Lease M4 76 Sherman. I've started here. The base coat this time, instead of using my airbrush, I actually used our U.S. Armor War Paint spray that's available. Now, that was not a mistake that you just heard. I said U.S. Armor, not the Soviet armor. And the reason being that quite a few of these Shermans that were painted, built in the U.S. and painted there, when the Soviets took them, rather than repaint the vehicles, they just added their own unit markings and called it a day. And in fact, when you look at the fantastic tanks that our staff painters have painted in New Zealand, you'll see that on the box cover art and on our website that they also did the same thing and used this as the base color. So it's something new, something new to try out, a little bit of variety. But if you wanted to do these in Russian green, you would not be wrong to do so. So completely personal choice. But for this tutorial, obviously I used the U.S. armor. My first step here is I'm painting the tracks German gray. Gives you a nice base coat, quite realistic looking, that you can dirty up later and call it a day. Now, if you're like me, once you have a read through this list, through the army list in Stalin's Europe, I think you're probably going to end up wanting to build and paint up a lot of these tanks. And for that reason, this tutorial is going to focus a lot on keeping the palette as limited as possible to make these tanks easier to paint, but still give you a realistic finish that should look quite nice on the tabletop. I would definitely suggest doing these in batches rather than an individual, one model at a time. It's much more efficient that way. You can do each step at, if you do like say 5 at a time, by the time you finish painting the 5th set of tracks of German gray, the first tank is already completely dry, and you'll immediately ready to go into the next step and get that done. So, and if you're going to be painting up 20, 30 of these tanks, like I'm sure a lot of us will be, that's definitely going to save you some time. Now, once the tracks are done, the next thing I did is I grabbed my beige brown and went ahead and painted the tool handles. It's a great default color, regardless of nation, to use for your shovels and picks and things like that. Make sure you're careful and you don't paint over the clip that holds the tool in place. That you should more than likely leave it the base color of the tank. Alright, so once we're done there, then I want to get started with decals. I like to get them weathered as soon as possible, so we're going to do a little bit of prep. And here I'm painting gloss varnish on all the sites where I'm going to be putting decals. This helps make the surface really, really smooth, fill in any tiny little imperfections, and will help prevent silvering of the decals, like I've mentioned in previous hobby tutorials. Hate to sound like a broken record, but doing this step, making sure you do that. Don't be lazy. Do this, and you will definitely get better results than if you didn't. And once that's completely dry, we go ahead and affix our decals in place. Use a little bit of decal softener if you need to get it to conform better to the surface. And if you need to reposition it, you can use a little bit of water to kind of make it float around. Now you'll notice, with the benefit of movie magic here, you didn't get to see all my maneuvering around and things. I just put those things on there perfect first time. But really, take as long as you need to get it exactly where you want it, just like I'm doing here. Just put some water on there, get it swimming around. Once you're happy with where it's at, if there's a lot of water there, take a piece of tissue and wick away the excess moisture. Otherwise, just let it sit there and dry out. So once all those decals are completely dry, go ahead and apply another coat of gloss varnish over them, and this will just help seal them in, protect them that little bit more, and also help conceal the edges of the decal transfer film. So it's you know, if you can get those going, your decals are going to look like you actually hand painted them on. And you know, if you want to lie and tell your friends that's what you did, you know, hey, it's up to you. All right. Next, for some reason, inexplicably, I didn't do this earlier. We're going to go ahead and take the German gray and paint our tools, the metallic part of the tools. Again, try to avoid the little bands where the holders where they get held on the vehicles. Try to leave those the U.S. Armor green. But just, yeah, paint your shovel, your tool jack, you know, all those things. German gray. All right, now while we got the German gray on the palette, I went ahead and took one of the pieces of foam from the box set and tore it to give it a little bit of a rough edge, and then just kind of dipped it in there in my paint, you know, wiped most of it off, and then just kind of dab it around all the high traffic areas, sharp edges, get a couple hits on the decals. This shows chipped paint, and it looks awesome. I mean, don't go too crazy with it, but and don't forget your turret as well. But it's a great, easy thing to do to weather your vehicles a little bit. And again, you know, don't go too crazy with it. You know, you can always do some more if you look at it later and you're unhappy with it. But you know, once you do it too much, you know, it looks like somebody like thought your tank was a, you know, I don't know what they thought. But anyway, go ahead, matte varnish the everything, the whole tank, and that will get rid of the gloss that you did and just leave some nice looking decals behind like you see here. Then grab your number 2 pencil and start to work doing little chips, nicks, anywhere where it's going to expose the metal. You see here I'm doing the shovel and the tools back there. Rather than painting them with a metallic paint, I just quickly go over them with a pencil. Looks great, you know, it's like warm metal. Again, like with the chips, don't go too crazy. Now you see here that big gray blob I had on the back there when I was doing the sponge work. It definitely pays to put a little bit of the pencil in there as well to sort of show the kind of 2 stages where the green paint came off and the primer came off, showing the bare metal. It looks great. Don't forget the turret as well. And again, I try to get at least 1 or 2 little, you know, pencil nicks, if you want to call them that, on my decals to sort of help blend bring the decal in together with the rest of the paint job of the tank, so it doesn't look like a separate entity. All right, you see I'm hitting here, you know, hatches, areas that are going to get a lot of traffic from crew. It looks cool. It's easy. Why not? All right, we're almost done here. Now we're going to finish up with some pigment work. I thought I'd try something new. You know, it pays to try new things out. So we're actually using MIG this time around, and this flavor, or color if you will, is Europe Dust. That looks great. And just take an old dry brush and just apply it on there. Try to focus most of your efforts in the kind of the lower half of the hull, you know, where it's close to the ground or the road or whatever, and picking up the most kind of dust. But you see, the nice thing about using pigment is you get a diffused quality, a very natural, kind of chalky, diffused quality to it that is very, very difficult to duplicate with painting like maybe stippling or something like that. Not impossible, and there's certainly, this is not an absolute requirement to do this to get a dusty effect, but you know, I don't think you can beat it for how easy it is to apply and how realistic it looks. I mean, I'm just brushing it on here. I mean, you can see for yourself here in the video, it's no special techniques or anything. Just do a little bit at a time, get it where you need to be. Again, I'm trying to focus on the lower part of the hull. I'm getting a whole lot on that decal just to make it nice and grungy, and go to town. I like to do a couple of spots lightly on the top of the hull just to sort of give it a little bit of variety. Help maybe tell a little bit of a story of where that tank's been, what they've been up to. Little things like that. And it's things like this that are super easy, but are going to help make your tanks really look really, really nice on the Wargaming tabletop with just a tiny bit of extra effort. Having a look there, looks all good to me. Don't forget about your turret. Now, you're not going to go too crazy on this, obviously, because it's sitting up higher over the ground, but I like to get a little bit of dirt on there, and I definitely get it in a couple spots, and I definitely like at least one of those spots to be on the decals. Again, weather them a little bit, dirty them up a little bit. While we got our pigments out, I'll go ahead and put a little bit of MIG black smoke on the end of the barrel there to kind of give it that soot look from, multiple firings of the main gun destroying fascists. And we do a light matte varnish to seal everything in, and guess what? You are done. That's it. As you can see, it looks great. You can do a ton of these in no time. Big batches, 30, 40 tanks. Pause the video here. Here's the recipe. As you can see, very, very limited. Piece of cake. Best of luck with your endeavors, and be sure to turn into flamesofwar.com for future hobby tutorials.